All right, so Apple made a huge acquisition, and this acquisition was entirely meant to compete directly with Adobe. Now, a lot of us know Adobe, especially Adobe Creative Cloud, and Adobe is known for a lot of their products. Their products go from things like Photoshop, InDesign, and one that I use often, which is Lightroom. And for the longest time, Adobe has literally been leading charge within the space of creatives and photo creatives. If you've been looking to get a cinematic feel for a photo or a video, you usually go to Adobe products to be able to get that type of results. And that is until now. So Apple just made an acquisition of a startup called Color.io. And Color.io is a color grading tool that has over 200,000 users. And what this tool solves, what Color.io does for its users, is it allows you to upload videos and images and color grade it. So you can get a cinematic feel similar to that of a Netflix movie or film. And Color.io was founded by this founder named Jonathan Ochman. He, like I mentioned, within his product had 200,000 users. And he actually told his users that he was planning on shutting down Color.io, this color grading tool. And as you can imagine, a lot of these creators were devastated. Like, why are you taking this tool away from us? We don't want to spend $800 a year on Adobe. And there was, in fact, a twist. So he wasn't necessarily getting rid and shutting down this tool, Color.io. He was instead selling it to Apple. And what's strange enough is that nobody knew of this acquisition until 6 months later after it happened. So this acquisition took place back in November 2025, after a random EU regulatory filing exposed this deal. This is a story of how a founder in Germany built a tool that led to 200,000 users, faked a shutdown, and then secretly joined one of the biggest companies in the world, Apple. Let's dive a little bit more into who this founder is of Color.io. Jonathan Ochman is the definition of what I consider a indie hacker. So he started around 2021, 2022, where he built Color.io completely alone, no co-founder, just a solo founder. No team, no VC, no venture capital. He didn't have millions of dollars sitting beside him within his bank account to put into this business. He was literally just one guy with a vision. And his vision was to create an affordable color grading tool that made you feel as if you're creating movies in real time. Now, I know I mentioned a few of Color.io's competitors, now Apple's competitors, being Adobe. But another competitor that a lot of people are familiar with, especially myself, is DaVinci Resolve. Now, what Jonathan did for Color.io was really just carved out his own lane, where he focused on the science behind color grading. But what's interesting enough is that this startup, Color.io, really gained its traction, gained its legs, not necessarily just because the product was easy to use, but it was like a revolt. A lot of people were tired of using Adobe and paying Adobe these crazy amount of prices for a subscription. And just some quick background. Once upon a time, if you wanted to use an Adobe product, if it's Photoshop, if it's Lightroom, 10 years ago, all you had to do was pay $200 and you're good to go. Fast forward now with the subscription-based payment cycle that basically everything is in. Adobe got rid of that one-time payment of $200 a year or $200 for the product and you own it. They got rid of that to now $50, $60 a year for one or two products. Now, if you're just going to use it for 1 year, spending $60 makes sense, but we are talking about people who are creatives. This is what they do for a living, for a hobby, and they don't plan on getting rid of their hobby or their living, whatever makes them money, simply because of the price. So they're not using it for 1 year. They're using it for 5, 6, maybe even 10 years. So spending $60 every single month for 10 years adds up. And really what that resulted in was Color.io, just an alternative for people to use and avoid that Adobe pricing. Like I said, revolt against the Adobe business model. And with a great tool, with a great product, and a amazing reason why to avoid this monopoly of Adobe, he actually gained a lot of traction. Within 4 years, 5 years, he went from 0 to 200,000 users. Fast forward, that it sparked the interest of Apple, and Apple later on acquired them. And let's dive a little bit more into the product. So Color.io, like I said, is a color grading tool. It was a web-based, meaning all you got to do is go to color.io.com and you're able to play around and get your results that you're looking for. And the product itself, Color.io, was a tool that wasn't competing with your Instagram filters, not at all. It was a tool that was competing with the big guys, Adobe, DaVinci. And those competitors that I just mentioned are the ones that are charging people thousands and thousands of dollars. And let alone, if you were to license Adobe to an enterprise customer, that customer on an enterprise setting might be spending close to $1 million just for a yearly subscription of Adobe. But here you have a one-person team, literally just one person, that built a startup with no capital and gained 200,000. That's just a crazy number to think of. He gained 200,000 users, all because of those 200,000 people did not like the monopoly that Adobe was creating. And if you want to talk about the numbers, how much did Apple acquire Kaleo for? Unfortunately, the number is not disclosed, but this is more of a play of an acqui-hire, meaning Apple didn't acquire Kaleo because of the product being amazing. I'm sure they could have put it together themselves internally for a couple $1 million. I think what they really wanted to do was acquire the mind behind it, the engine behind it, the person that understood what the users truly wanted and was able to build out the product, versus what Apple would have done without acquiring Kaleo, which is they would have basically just assumed and guessed what the users wanted and probably went ahead and did the same thing that Adobe did. So yeah, number is not disclosed, but you can definitely assume that the acquisition itself was close to the high millions. So definitely an acquisition towards the high millions with the purpose of having this Jonathan, the founder, join Apple as probably one of the directors, executives leading the new effort towards Apple's creative studio. And I think the timing for this is definitely perfect. In the early 2026, Apple's moment to strike was just then. They had just launched the Apple Creator Studio, a subscription bundle positioning itself as the anti-Adobe Creative Cloud. Adobe's been the creative software monopoly for decades, but Apple saw an opportunity, and that opportunity was to bundle professional tools with hardware, undercut the Adobe on-price subscription model, and to ultimately win the creator war. So yeah, I think acquiring Kaleo definitely gave Apple the instant credibility with a lot of film and photography communities, a group that is very much notoriously hard to win over. So even though Kaleo had quite a bit of users, this wasn't about buying the users. It was about buying the taste, the craft, technology stack, and that Adobe's, everything in which Adobe simply could not replace overnight. So this is going to be very interesting. One of the things I love about seeing these type of acquisitions, because it definitely gives you an insight. I would say like an insider insight of what could possibly happen for a competitor. For example, with Adobe, their stock price for years since the subscription-based model has been going up, but slowly for the past couple of years, there's been trickling up and down, and it hasn't been as stable as it used to be. So yeah, definitely Adobe's stock has been under pressure as Apple's bundle approach and it eats into their consumer base. So what's next for this founder? So now Jonathan, the former founder of Kaleo, is a full-time employee. He is now Apple's acqui-hire, which is good for him because he's, I'm pretty sure, getting paid a crazy amount of money. But the product itself, Kaleo, is going to be sunset pretty soon, no longer used by those who have not already been a part of the 200,000 people that's already been using it. But for a founder, this is a win. I mean, you built the product by yourself, bootstrapped it, no capital. You have Apple that came out and went ahead and acquired it. You made a couple million. You stay on Apple as an executive, as a director, leading this creator studio that Apple wanted to take on to compete with Adobe. So I think for the founder, it's definitely a win. Now, if I was to make a guess of what might happen in the future, I definitely see Apple's Creator Studio taking off. And the reason being, you got to really think of the Apple ecosystem. You take a photo, you record, the quality of their hardware, their phones are just getting better and better. You can take photos with 50 megapixels in quality. You can take videos with 4K, soon to be 6K within the Apple phone. Being able to have that type of results produced on your phone and then simply having to upload it into the cloud and then taking it from the cloud to your Creator Studio, I definitely see this whole entire spin cycle of what Apple is doing. Have the best hardware. Once you have the best hardware, have a way for people to be able to manage their hardware within the cloud. And for those that are creatives, rather than them having to look elsewhere to utilize their content, they can simply stay within the Apple's ecosystem within Creator Studio. So no need for them to go to DaVinci Resolve. No need for them to go to Adobe in this case. Keep them all within the Apple ecosystem. And I think Apple is definitely doing a great job with this acquisition and as well as what they plan on doing with the future. Because like I mentioned, Adobe is a multi-billion dollar company. They make billions of dollars a year, and they really never had any competition till now. I think this is definitely going to be something that's going to shoot the stock price of Apple up. And it's also going to be something that a lot of creators are going to be a fan of, because we have the phones that can take photos 100 yards away. We want to be able to edit the photos within the same spot, within the same domain, versus having to go to DaVinci Resolve to do it. So it's definitely a win for Apple. If anybody owns Apple stocks, it's definitely a win for you as well. I think in the future, this is going to shoot the price up quite a bit. All right, folks, that is it for today's video. If you haven't done so already, make sure you hit that like and subscribe. What do you guys think about this acquisition? Not the numbers that we were expecting to see, outside of just a huge user base, 200,000 people using this product that was built by one person, but not the acquisition numbers that we would have liked to see. It's more of an acqui-hire, where they just having somebody that they want within their team internally because of their expertise, and probably because of their name recognition within the community of creatives as well. So let me know what you guys think. Add your comments down below. Did Apple win? Should Adobe be concerned? I don't know. Leave your comments down below.